Hi, Nick here at Lunar Awakening, a guiding compass to spiritual enlightenment. So on this instalment, the video is going to cover what's the difference between your conscious and your subconscious mind. And we're going to look more into what the subconscious mind really is and how it operates, and just give some brief overview as to why that's an important definition for someone to understand if they want to become more spiritually enlightened, and how this can operate in your day-to-day life, how the subconscious mind might affect your day-to-day life. So the conscious mind is the mind that most people are aware of. So when you have a thought and you think, oh, I need to go to the toilet, or I'm hungry, I'm going to get some dinner soon, or I must remember to text that friend that I haven't reached out to for a while, that's all happening at the conscious layer of your mind. You think the thought, you can almost like hear it in the front of your mind, and then you act on the thought. And the subconscious mind is happening in the background. So the subconscious mind would have actually pushed a thought to your conscious mind that says, oh look, you're now hungry. But it's in your conscious mind that you're sort of aware of it and then act on it. So the subconscious mind is operating about 95% of what goes on in your life happens at the subconscious layer. So, you don't consciously think when you've eaten a sandwich, oh, I must remember to digest my food. And you don't have to consciously think about breathing as the majority of the day goes by. And, when you're driving, it's a really good example, driving, is most people when they start to drive, everyone, when they first learn to drive, it's kind of like quite tiring on your brain. So you'll be like, oh, I must remember to brake. Look, I need to turn this corner, so I'm going to use the steering wheel. Getting too hot, I'm going to wind down my window. And you'll probably be like a bag of nerves when you're doing this. I did anyway. So you're getting nervous because you're doing something for the first time. And then after a while, you can get into a car, and then you just know what to do. You just know that person is going to brake in front, and then you automatically start braking as well. And you don't really have it happening at a conscious level, because now, and that's because it's entered your subconscious mind. So these behaviours have now become a pattern that your brain's recognised, and it can now call them at will as required. So you see the brakes going in front of you, and you automatically start to brake yourself, but you don't think, oh, I must really remember to brake now. That might happen if the guy suddenly broke really suddenly in front of you, and that it was like a danger situation. But once again, your driving instructor would have taught you that automatic response of slamming the brake on, slamming the clutch on, and doing the automatic stop. So that's a really good example of how your conscious mind is active when you're doing things for the first time, and after a while those patterns of behaviour become habitual. So it can be safe to say that your subconscious mind stores all of your memories. It learns these skills once you've done them enough times. It will learn and memorise those skills, and it will also look for patterns in your life. Because, the brain uses up a lot of energy. It's one of the biggest drains on your body. You use up a lot of calories. I can't remember the exact amount. I'll try and look it up and maybe comment that on a different video. But in order to make its life easier, it learns to automate a lot of what you do. So, you get up out of bed in the morning, and you might go to brush your teeth, and you're not thinking really, oh, I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to do that. A lot of it just happens like on autopilot. I mean, just bear that in mind. Like, next time you get up, just see what your morning plays out like, and you'll probably find that some of you don't have like kids or something, it tends to follow a routine, a pattern. I say because kids obviously can be quite unpredictable, but if you're on your own and you get up and you get to make yourself a cup of tea, then you have your breakfast, then you get a shower, then you get dressed, then you go to the office. So that all happens on autopilot. And it's the brain's way of conserving energy and making life as stress-free and easy as possible. And where does it learn these patterns of behaviour? Well, it learns through observing other people. So you might find this why they often say, you become your parents. Like, if you're a woman, you become your mum. If you're a boy, you might become your dad. But yeah, so you will have observed, your primary caregiver, they get up, they go to the toilet, they get their tea, they get breakfast, they have a shower, they go to work. And then you learn that as well. But it doesn't just extend to your morning routine. This is true for all areas of your life. You observe how they have friendships, you observe that they had a job, you observe that they liked to play the lottery, all of these things. And your brain will take that information on board, and then it will decide, is this a useful pattern? And if it sees there's some benefit, then it's going to hold on to it. And the benefit doesn't even need to be an actual benefit to you. It's whether the subconscious mind deemed that it was a good sort of survival strategy. And the reason I say it's not necessarily a benefit to you is because you could have patterns of behaviour that have been instilled in you that are actually negative for you, but in your mind, they're good survival strategies. So for example, like with me, I didn't really have many friends when I was younger, and I saw that these people could be dangerous for me, but that was just my interpretation of my home environment, and that I needed to stay I can't think of the word, but I needed to keep my privacy in order to stay safe at home, because if I let people know information about me, then that was going to put me in danger. So my brain learned, like, you don't share information with people, and I became a really insular person. But that didn't help me. Like, in the long term, I became very lonely, very isolated, and it played out very negatively over an extended period of time. And it was only when I realised that was what was happening that it was like, okay, now this is something I need to proactively change. But that's the beauty of this. Your subconscious mind, while it has all these like belief systems and memories, they can be undone. It's absolutely possible. So you obviously have to be willing, and you have to want to do that, and you have to find a method that works. But it is absolutely possible, because all it is so to enter the subconscious mind, we typically have to hear something or experience something about 7 times. That's the average. That's what, the psychologists found. And then it becomes like this pattern of behaviour. So after 7 times of driving a car, it's going to become more automatic. Now, probably still not as fluid as when you've done it like 1,000 times, and this is why they say like 10,000 hours to learn a new skill. But you're getting onto something now, having a distinct neural pathway in your brain that the brain can then call on to reenact that. So in the last video I did, I mentioned about, my brain had like built up all these little cassettes about, my post-traumatic stress disorder, and when a trigger happened to do this behaviour. So that was just like a neural pathway in my brain that just built up so strongly over time, because it happened again and again and again and again. And then it's like, a woodland path. When one person walks that path, it's just like a few leaves look like they've been separated. And then over a period of extended time and many more footprints walking that same distance, now you're starting to see a distinct brown, you've got the mud there, and then you've got the green either side, the branches have started to separate, and that's what happens in your brain. So you will have light treaded paths in your brain, light neural pathways, and then you'll have the stronger ones. And what happens is the neural pathways that are really strong, they're ones that have had also a strong emotional reaction at the same time. So if an event happened and it generated a lot of fear in you, a lot of anger in you, or a lot of happiness in you, a lot of joy, a lot of excitement, then these are the memories that are really going to stick, because the subconscious mind deals in feelings and emotions. So when you're looking at what you're limiting beliefs there, I'll explain a bit about that in a sec. But when you're looking at your patterns of behaviour, then it's really important to look at what emotions, what events have happened in your life that created strong emotional reactions. Were they always positive? Is it now time to try and rewrite some of those and bring about more of the positive neural pathway connections so that you can enjoy life more? So the limiting beliefs is something that's coined in the medical world or psychological world. Is a limiting belief is a belief that you have that maybe is like disempowering for you. So you might have a belief, so an example of one that I'm working on is that you have to have a full-time job in order to make money. So that's a limiting belief for me, because it means that I'm limiting the opportunities in my life because I've got that little rule in my head. But is that rule actually a fact? So this is how you can start to challenge some of these. You can ask yourself questions like, has anyone else ever made money not having a full-time job? Absolutely. So you can then list out some examples of ways that, you know, you might be able to make money not in a full-time job. And then that now has opened your mind up to some new possibilities, and you can now, you know, challenge your belief and maybe even try some of these new ideas out and see if they work for you. So the reason why it's important with like your spiritual enlightened journey to really question your subconscious mind and the programming that's gone on over many years is that it might not be serving you. And especially if, you know, you've built up a strong catalogue of negative emotions over many years, then probably some of your belief systems are going to be quite negative, and it's going to be easier at this point in time to recall those if you haven't worked on them. Now with one of the ways of like tackling this is to meditate. Because by meditating, you're bringing yourself back into your body and you're starting to notice what's going on. So when we say subconscious mind, well, everyone thinks of their brain. It's actually your whole body. It's like your whole central nervous system. And whenever you see like that picture in a science book of the central nervous system, it's connected to the brain, and it's all these little trees going out into all your different limbs. So you might have remembered me saying that in a previous video, I used to suffer from extreme pain in my shoulders and neck, extreme pain in my chest, and shin splints. Now sometimes I still get that little pain in my chest, and it's just a memory that's been triggered. And as I said, the subconscious mind deals with feelings, so it creates that feeling of like anxiety inside me. So one of the ways that you can manage this and try and work with it is to just sit and breathe through your nose and out through your mouth quite slowly. So you're bringing the conscious awareness to your breath, and then you bring the conscious awareness to the point of your body where you feel the pain, and you don't try and fight the pain. You just sit there and notice it. And then over a period of time, like it might take a few minutes, like just like really put your attention there, and then suddenly like you'll start to feel that the pain starts to disperse. And you know, if you do that enough times, then you're basically like breaking down the hold of that thought pattern on that physiological pain. So some of our, you know, actions and beliefs that we have are not congruent to being a spiritually enlightened person. So when we were looking at the scale of consciousness, it's obvious why something like anger is not going to be a great thing if you've got that emotional footprint in your subconscious mind, and you go to anger because you learned that was a good strategy when you were younger, or at any point, you know, if you do it enough times and it becomes that subconscious behaviour, automatic response, you know, you learn that anger or you learn that fear. Like for me, running away was a big thing. So I'd learned that running away was a way to keep myself safe. And again, you know, that wasn't helpful when I got into like adult life. It wasn't helpful to me to have that behaviour pattern, because all my friends were looking at me thinking she's a bit of a weirdo. She keeps running away from us. What have we done? But you know, so you have to like work on these behaviours. You have to say like, this isn't helpful to me anymore. And you have to bring the conscious awareness to the behaviour and then think, right, so how can I tackle this? So what else have I got to cover off? So thoughts with really strong emotions stick around more than ones with negative emotions. So one of the ways that you can bring up in more positive emotions into your life is to really just like put yourself in positive situations. Like start watching funny movies, and like even if you don't feel like you've got joy in yourself when you're watching it, like laugh anyway, and just try and like create that emotion inside of you. And what I was going to say about like the congruence part was that sometimes it's we're not congruent. So I had, you know, this belief wanting to feel love, and you read up and then they're saying so like the love layer of conscious awareness, and as I explained, this love is not just like I love my partner or I love my job. This is a love for all. Now, when you hear that, right, you have to bear in mind that you love all. So that means I might have to extend love out to people who have done wrong to me. Like, you can't get away from all. All is literally everyone. So it might be the boss that was a pain, or, you know, the parent that was violent, and then you have to extend love to them, and you have to learn to forgive them. And when we're talking about the patterns, if we're holding on to that negative feeling state, then we're not going to be in that sense of love. So you have to work on that and come to terms with the fact that in forgiving someone else, you're actually releasing yourself. You're releasing yourself from that hurt and that pain. So it's really beneficial to do it, and it's really hard. Like, I'm not saying that it's easy to look at someone who was so detrimental to you in the past, or if you want to hold that grudge because your pride is so strong, like you kind of think in your mind, well, if I forgive them then they win. No, absolutely not. If you forgive them, then you win, because they don't really need to know about your forgiveness. Like, you don't need to tell them I've forgiven you. You don't actually have to do that. You could choose to. If that was part of your way of having to let go, then you can absolutely do that. But you don't have to. You can just forgive in yourself them and not hold that pain inside your body anymore. And then if you forgive them and you let it go, then those feeling states of love and peace and joy are going to be far easier in your reach, because you've let go of the negative emotion. Negative emotions are really powerful. And, you know, that's something that's not going to be great sitting in your body. And it's not going to make you feel lighter. And probably one of the hardest parts of the shadow to work on is that area of forgiveness. Forgiving people who have, in your mind, you've perceived that they've done you wrong. Now, I say in your mind because it's all just perception. And you can learn to use other, like, stories. You can tell yourself other stories. You can word it differently and say, okay, yes, I had this really bad experience with that individual, and they did do wrong in the sense of, you know, I wouldn't want to be treated that way. I wouldn't want someone else to treat me that way, and I wouldn't treat someone that way. But then you might open your mind up and say, but I can see that they actually had a really difficult childhood, and maybe this was learnt behaviour from their difficult past. And therefore I choose to forgive them because they are not consciously aware of their own bad feeling states, and they are not aware of their own, like, the neural pathways that are going on in their mind. And this is their way of learning to survive. And when you look at it that way, you see it's the same behaviour. They're still doing the bad thing to you that's generated the negative feeling, but now you're able to look at it from a new perspective. And that new perspective might just give you enough breathing space to think, right, I can now let this go, because I actually now feel not sorry for them. I don't like that word, but, you know, I can see the situation from their perspective, and I know that they're not as consciously advanced as what I am, and therefore they're just acting out on their own bad feeling states. So I hope that's been a good understanding of, like, how the subconscious mind differs from the conscious mind, how our subconscious mind is programmed via our behaviours that we observe in childhood, and also repetitive experiences. The subconscious mind works heavily on an emotive level, and you'll know when your subconscious mind is talking to you because it will do so in images. So whereas your conscious mind is going to, like, chat to you all day and be like, oh yeah, we should go and do this, and we should go and watch that thing at the cinema, and we should go and clean our teeth and all that stuff. Your subconscious mind is just going to show you a picture of an event from, like, years ago, and that's its way of communicating with you. So your dream state is absolutely your subconscious mind talking to you. There's a website called Dreamhawk that you can go on, and when you have dreams, if you, like, wake up and you jot them all down, and then you go onto this website and you can look up all the different like, what it will mean. So, like, for example, I had a dream the other day that was like a bird of prey flying really high in the sky, and when I looked on the Dreamhawk website, they were like, yeah, that's like you're awakening to new perspectives, because, you know, a bird of prey, it flies really high up, so you're looking at life from a new perspective. And I was like, that's so cool. Yes, I absolutely want to look at my life from a new perspective. The old perspective wasn't working, so I'm well happy to change things up a bit. So yeah, and And in order to like reach the higher levels of conscious awareness, it's important to be looking at what is going on at the subconscious level. And is that serving your purpose of being an enlightened person, or is it limiting it? And then if it's limiting it, I can give some ideas on some future videos on how to go about addressing it. But just have that understanding that the conscious mind is different to the subconscious mind, and it's like a little library of all your previous events. And it's doing it to try and make your life as easy as possible and conserve energy, because it's very taxing using all the brain power. So I hope that's been a good intro onto the subconscious mind. As I say, in future videos I'll talk more about how we can start to manipulate the subconscious mind to get better outcomes in our life. But just start jotting down some ideas as to what might be going on at the subconscious level, and yeah, I'll go into that in some other videos as well. But I've already been talking for like 20 minutes, so I think we'll wrap it up here, and we can cover that on another video. So thanks all for listening. Please like the video if you've enjoyed what you've heard. Subscribe to the channel and put a little comment below as to what it was particularly that you liked about this one, and look out for more.